Swing big and save even bigger with our Big League Markdowns at Capital Ford in Santa Fe. This is your shot at big league deals, like a new 2025 Ford F-150 XLT 4-wheel drive Power Boost Hybrid, now up to $9,900 off MSRP, or a new 2026 Ford F-250 Super Duty, now up to $6,100 off MSRP. We're offering up home run deals all day, every day, with these Big League Markdowns at Capital Ford in Santa Fe.
Hey, welcome back to another live episode of the Pit Press Live. I'm your host for this evening, Eric Moulton, owner of the Pit Press, joined by the voice of the Western New Mexico Mustangs and a Lobo fan since 1970, Mr. Ed Nunez. Ed, what's up, man?
Hey, man. Looking forward to our guest tonight. Just do want to say this, that Nick Nunez, my son, couldn't join us. He's in San Diego, but was very instrumental in getting us this interview. So, he definitely would have been on, but he couldn't be tonight. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, Nick's been doing a lot of carrying the load with covering Lobo basketball and sports with a lot of his written articles and, a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. So a lot of kudos to him. But without further ado, we want to get to tonight's guest, UNM men's basketball assistant coach, Coach Tom Tankelewicz. Coach, welcome to the Pit Press, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys allowing me to come on. Thanks for having me.
Here we are, end of May. We're still talking Lobo hoops. I don't think Lobo basketball ever dies in the state of New Mexico, much less Albuquerque and within the Lobo Nation. But just a little bit about your background. Looks like you had spent 3 seasons with Coach Olen at UC San Diego before coming over to UNM. But really, Coach Olen kind of called you a creative mind and put you in charge of coordinating the UNM Lobo offense this last year. Had spent some time working with you at UC San Diego, but what are some of the core principles of your offense you want Lobo fans to kind of recognize immediately this offseason?
Yeah, first of all, your hat is awesome. I need to figure out where you got that from, because I think I could rock that at some point. And in terms of our offense, what I want people to see is like, hey, they're a really good passing team. They share the basketball. They don't pass and stand. They pass and move. They keep the defense on their toes. And hopefully what comes along with that is we're bringing skilled players into the program that can dribble, pass, and shoot.
So at UC San Diego, we're going to kind of go back into some of your coaching history here, but your offense is ranked among the national leaders in the assist to turnover ratio. I know in that podcast interview you did with Jeff Grammer of the Albuquerque Journal about a year ago, you talked about the assist to turnovers or turnover ratio kind of being one of the key factors you looked at when kind of, I guess, profiling a player. And then effective field goal percentage was another statistic that you guys ranked highly in. How would you translate an efficiency-driven style to speed, athleticism, and pressure, kind of moving from the Big West to now the Mountain West?
Yeah, I don't think our core philosophy's changed. I think, like I said, we still want to have guys that are skilled, that can think for themselves, can pass, dribble, and shoot. But at the same time, having this year under our belt where we got to learn the Mountain West, even though it's shifting and we all know that, hey, there's some change coming in terms of the Mountain West Conference. Getting our system, our players into a different environment and seeing some of the challenges that we faced and maybe some things that we thought were challenges that ended up being okay for us in the end. I thought that was a valuable learning year. So hopefully we can continue to learn and put our guys in better and better positions. But the majority of the credit for good offense goes to the players, because we do put a lot of onus on them to make their own decisions and have an understanding of what they're really good at and what they're not good at, and how to eliminate some of the things they're not good at. And then what goes along with that is the understanding of what their teammates do well and how they can complement them. So all in all, I think it was a good transitional year, and hopefully we can continue to build on that.
I've got one more question, and then I'll kick it back over to Ed. But can you just elaborate more on, I know a lot of the credit goes to Coach Olen on his offensive philosophies, but I know you have a lot of credibility too, and you influence a lot of those decisions. But I guess your description or definition of the style of play with the pace, the space, giving your players a lot of freedom within the offense to kind of anticipate and make the right decisions. I know that you're kind of giving your players freedom to make those decisions and knowing kind of the progression of the offense. But I mean, what's your kind of description of that, and how are you teaching your players to kind of think ahead and really kind of anticipate plays before they even happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I can talk about it from this standpoint, right? We're in a time of the year where the majority of our players are going to be joining us this weekend. They'll do some of the physical stuff, getting ready for practice. So just amongst our staff, we're talking about, hey, how do we teach this better? How do we switch this concept to make it fit our personnel that's coming in better? But essentially, we're going to build the structure in the summertime, in the fall. And a lot of that, as Lobo fans know, is ball screen centric. We play a lot out of the ball screen, typically in the top 10% in the country. And then within that ball screen, there's going to be a million different things that can happen based on defensive coverage, cutting schemes away from the ball, where we're trying to send the ball. And then hopefully we're able to learn the structure well enough in the summer and fall that, hey, the best offenses, you guys are watching the NBA, we talked about it pre-show, the best offenses have an element of random within it. But you never get to that element of randomness until you have the overall structure and understanding of spacing. So we are working to get towards that randomness, but it doesn't just happen day one. That's going to be a long build-up, and hopefully we can get there by November. That would be our goal.
Yeah. Ed?
Coach, you mentioned the core principles of Eric Olen offense: dribble, pass, drive, react, read. Last year, Coach Olen mentions rim pressure. Dayton Albury, a lot of rim pressure there. Kick out, drive and kick, space. You mentioned read and react. New Mexico, when they were playing their best, did a lot of that. What excites you about this incoming recruiting class that you've recruited? Uriah Tenet returns. You did lose Thomas Bouillon and JT Rock and Antonio Chol, but some of the recruits that you have coming in, we've studied them, watched them. What excites you about this group coming in that's going to be able to run the core, the offense and the core principles you mentioned? What excites you about that, the group coming in?
I mean, first and foremost, it's always best when you have some retention, right? Uriah and Jake were obviously important players for us. So them having, and Chris returning as well, those guys have a level understanding of offensively, defensively, what we're trying to accomplish. So it makes it easier, even if you have 2 or 3 guys out there that have past knowledge of what we are trying to do. In terms of what we have coming in, I'm excited most about just some of the versatility and skill that we were able to bring in, right? We feel like the longer you're with a head coach, a boss, whatever you want to call it, you start to understand the types of players that work best for him, the players that he's best at coaching, what attributes they bring to the table, both physically, mentally, and from a skill set standpoint. And we've had a whole year under our belt, right? We've had some additions to the staff, fortunate we were able to keep everybody on our staff moving in the right direction. So I feel like the understanding of what we're trying to bring in is at a higher level than it ever has been with Coach Olen, right? Some of that is because we guys have been with him for 4 or 5 years in Sam Stapleton's case. And then Roberts, Wilder, Waterman, they get a feel for it after a year, after 2 recruiting cycles. So we feel like we did a good job at bringing in the types of players that fit Coach Olen, not just his system, but his personality and how he's best coaching these guys.
Coach, you mentioned last year on the podcast with Jeff Grammer, it was April 28th, 2025, almost a year ago. Your wife and your baby hadn't come yet. I think your son, you mentioned, was 3 months old at that time, should be a year now. You weren't sure what lay ahead. It's a year later. After having all that under your belt, one season, New Mexico making the semifinals of the NIT, winning 26 games, you were part of that staff. Coach Olen, I think, was tied with, Craig Neal as one of the coaches that won the most in his first year here at New Mexico. Looking back on that one whole first season, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is just the growth that we had from really, I think about Northern Arizona, whenever that game was, October 30th, right? We didn't play particularly well. We were sluggish. We turned the ball over. We were slow. We didn't play with tempo. And then just some of the growth that we've had individually and team-wise month to where I thought we were playing our best basketball later on in the season. It didn't always result in wins. However, that's what I'm most proud of, and what I can take from it is that, hey, the style that we play, the players that we're bringing in, they have the ability to continue to grow and get better throughout a season. And that the version of ourselves, October 30th versus Northern Arizona, looked completely different when we played Tulsa in the semifinals of the NIT.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I got one more, then I'll send it back over to Eric. New Mexico set a school record with more than 3,000 points scored last season. When you evaluate your offense, what matters more to you? Pace, spacing, shot quality, or decision-making? I'm gathering they all matter a lot, but which of those matters the most?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I feel like they all matter. Pace isn't just full court, right? A lot of people talk about, hey, you get a defensive rebound or you create a turnover. We want to play with pace and transition. Yeah, that's certainly one way to do it. I'd like us to have improved pace in the half court with the way that we cut, the way that we roll, the way that we pass and space to the opposite corner. Those are the things that, when I think of pace, it's not just Dayton Albury 4.4 40 speed going baseline to baseline. It's not just that. It's in the half court, how do you operate in confined space and still do it with a good pace, I suppose. I think you mentioned decision-making. I think it's decision-making. The game of basketball comes back to you're making 1,000 decisions every second, basically, in basketball. Am I going to cut? Am I going to hold space? Am I going to screen? There's a million things that you could talk about in terms of decision-making. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Eric.
They're very important. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. So when we kind of evaluated the on the court, I felt like last year there were a lot of players that were interchangeable. I don't know how intentional that was, but you kind of hear the term being thrown around: positionless basketball, modern offense. When you kind of break down the ideal Lobo offensive player now, what specific traits are you prioritizing?
Yeah, one that's hard to gauge on first watch. It would be feel, or what some people categorize as basketball IQ. That's something that we talk about in our office constantly, right? And that goes back to Ed's question. A lot of that feel goes with the decisions that you make on the floor. So that's the one thing that we want to hit on with every recruit, is that they have feel. Anybody we bring into our program, they have an understanding of how to play the game and how to fit into a team environment.
Gotcha. Yeah. In terms of recruiting, obviously we're more than familiar with a guy like Jake Hall, Uriah Tenet, but when we look at last season, they were somewhat of kind of unknowns, a little bit under recruited. Don't know if it was tied to size necessarily, but those were kind of the guys that were a little unproven. But you guys went after. They were both committed to play at UC San Diego. When you think about like potential diamonds in the rough and landing here at UNM, Dax Hall kind of fits maybe another kind of persona that might do that. Are there any guys on this roster that you think could kind of be the next Jake Hall or Uriah Tenet?
Oh, I think it would be unfair to peg anybody for that. They obviously had unbelievable freshman seasons. And credit to those guys, right? They improved individually, which helped our team overall by the end of the season. But their willingness to be coached hard every single day was impactful in their development, impactful in our team development. And then their willingness to work their tails off. So I would say anybody that comes in with that type of spirit and mentality, they're going to have opportunities to impact our team in a positive manner.
Yeah, it's pretty unconventional that you have two true freshmen come in and make the impact right out the gate like they did. They were both starting at one point. Three total freshmen when you consider Bouillon, kind of shocking the whole country, right? Everyone's like, UNM's got three freshmen that are just putting up crazy numbers. But now that the tides have changed, there's a season under your guys' belt. You turn the page. This season, there's more of like a growing international influence for the Lobos roster, especially tying to like the European recruiting. What advantages does recruiting European players kind of do to your system? Are these guys that come in a little bit more seasoned, or maybe it's the style of play that ties closer to what Olen's philosophy looks like?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think first and foremost, it just expands your reach, right? Obviously, it's a numbers game at times, right? If we're able to figure out which countries are producing the best players and where we should allocate our resources, yeah, we're always going to lean to the United States first and see what we can get out of that. But in terms of like front court play, right, there's only so many front court players in the United States. There's only so many big human beings walking planet Earth that play basketball. So, yeah, we're going to expand our reach and try to find the guys that are most optimal for how we're trying to play the game and build our teams.
One more question, then I'll kick it back to Ed. But I want to talk about another style of player or kind of puzzle piece that fits your guys' system. A guy like Luke Hopt or a guy like Howell who kind of fit that connector piece that Olen often referred to in his post-game press conferences. I felt like Luke Hopt just took on this massive role within the offense, and he had some big games. I even think he had a 30-piece at one point in conference play, but it was the well-roundedness of his game, his ability to rebound, his ability to post up, his ability to pass the ball, his ability to shoot from the outside, and kind of just bringing all those intangible leadership assets to a team. Now, how big of a piece, like a glue guy or maybe that connector, kind of helps make this Olen offense go?
Yeah, I mean, talk about Luke Hopt. Luke had an unbelievable season. You mentioned that 30-point Boise State game, which we lost at home. The next game we win, I think he had 0. And you would never tell in the locker room after the game because all that kid wanted to do was win. And I think Luke and Chris specifically, Chris didn't get to show his full arsenal to Lobo Nation last year, but those two guys, what they do extremely well is they go into a game and they have a lot of skills in their arsenal that they could deploy on any given night. They go in and they figure out, hey, tonight I need to be a little bit more of a scorer. Hey, tonight I need to be a defensive anchor. Like my communication has to go up crazy. Tonight I got to be on the backboards. Hey, I have to look for my own offense a little bit more. That's what makes those guys so impactful is that they can fill a number of roles based on their skill set, positional size that can help us lineup wise, right? Like Luke Hopt could play with anybody on the court last year. It didn't matter. And the other 4 guys on the court kind of dictated how he played. Hey, am I out there with Dayton Albury? Well, I might have to space the floor a little bit more and be a secondary driver, get to some of my back to the basket game. Am I out there with Uriah? Shoot, I might have to get him some shots. Let me get in the paint and try to make a play for him. So like Chris and Luke specifically just have such an unbelievable understanding of the game and how they can impact the game on a nightly basis, which is hard to do, right? Because it's something different each and every night. And Chris did an unbelievable job for us at UC San Diego the year we went to NCAA tournament, doing just that.
Ed.
Coach, you mentioned that about Chris Howell and Luke Hopt. How important, you mentioned about Chris, and I'm glad he got another year to showcase to Lobo fans what he has. How important was it? You got some great recruits from St. John's. You got some shooters. I think Hudson Mays, when I watch him, and, of course, the grandson of the Roger Brown, and his dad played in the NFL, that guy's got an upside. You look at his body and athleticism, you get really excited about that. But how important was it to get a guy like you mentioned, the connector, and knowing what their Coach Olen, they played for him, Luke Hopton, but he fit in that system right away. But Chris Howell did. How important was it to retain a guy like Chris Howell?
Yeah, Chris is unbelievably important. We are extremely fortunate that NCAA granted him another year to play at New Mexico because of everything that we just spoke about, right? Everybody's heard about, he's so good in the locker room. He's so good with the players. He's a coach on the floor. But that dude just impacts winning. And I very much expect him to do the same thing he did for us at UC San Diego to do it here this year. There's expectations for him because of what he's done in the past. And I think he's ready for that.
Very intelligent ball player. I got to ask you this. When you coached at UC San Diego with Coach Olen, you guys probably got, 1,500, 2,000 fans. You drew some fans, but did it shock you? You had heard about the pit. You had heard about it. But did it surprise you? Does it surprise you, the level of enthusiasm and how people are as crazy about Lobo men's basketball as they are? Because I think you pretty much know, like Eric said, people are looking forward to seeing your new guys coming in and practicing. Did that surprise you, the level of Lobo Nation mania, enthusiasm for Lobo basketball?
It's crazy. It's crazy because I'm a no-name assistant coach, and we're sitting here in May before our players are even on campus talking about our team for next year. That doesn't happen everywhere, right? That's unique. That's rare. That makes this place very special. So, yeah, it was surprising the first time that we walked down the ramp and you feel the fans and you feel the investment level and how much they care about the product on the floor and how hard you play. Yeah, that makes New Mexico, New Mexico. We, as a staff, we talk about it all the time after games. Like, dang, the pit really helped us tonight. That got us through in the second half. Like, there's a number of games that we could reference that happened this year. But the fact that we're even talking about New Mexico basketball right now, that's not happening everywhere in the country. It's pretty dang cool to be a part of.
Yeah, Lobo fans, you already know, Coach, they love their Lobos, man. They really do. And you saw that. I gotta ask you this too. We mentioned players that you brought in, Dax Hall and Jake Hall. They're brothers. Their games are totally different. When Jake Hall had one, and we mentioned some of the Lobos. Kenny Thomas, who I do radio with, he was one of the greatest Lobos there was. Charles Smith went to the pros. Phil Smith was drafted in the NBA, and Jake Hall had as good a freshman season as any of those three. Now, when you see Dax Hall coming in, and he's more of a distributor, likes to get those feet in the paint, like Coach Olen, 2 feet in the paint, dish, drive, distribute. How excited are you to see his development? Now, he's got Uriah Tenet in front of him. He's going to be a freshman. But high basketball IQ comes him and his brother. I can't wait to see them play together. A lot of Lobo fans can't either. But how excited are you to see Dax Hall come here?
Yeah. Dax is somebody we've known for a long time, right? We've known the Hall family for a long time. So we've been able to see Dax's development, right? We saw Dax as a little freshman in Santa Fe Christian, and you see him continue to get better and better year by year. Like, we gravitate towards players that improve. We gravitate towards players that are skilled, which is what Dax is. Because, right, if you're a skilled basketball player, you've probably invested some time into your game, working at your game. That's what we want. So, yeah, it's exciting to get anybody in our program that has that mentality. And the fact that he's won at such a high level on the high school level is impactful too. We want guys that have won in the past.
One of the things that I got to ask you this too, you said last year you weren't sure about some of New Mexico's cuisine, whether, you had just barely started tasting green and red chili. Now that you've been here a year, any restaurant favorites, or have you gotten used to New Mexico red or green yet?
I don't know about any restaurant favorites, but when I go out places, if there's a green chili option, red's a little too spicy for me. I'm soft, but the green chili has been a nice addition to some food. So yeah, I'll stick to green chili.
That's a New Mexico staple, man. You see,
The red's too much. That's a Coach Wilder special. He likes the spicy.
I'll tell you what, we went to. I got to say this, and I'll turn it back over to Eric. We went to a practice last year, and Coach Roberts, man, that guy will get after you. We saw him, and that's just his style. It's not. I've been coached by people like that, seen coaches like that. I enjoy watching him, man, because he's gonna get under your chin if he sees something. And you already know the background with the late great Mike Roberts, the voice of the Lobos for 40 years. I heard Jeff ask you that, and when we think of Mike Roberts, I wish you guys could have seen him at his own perch over there, right behind the Lobo bench. And that guy was a staple, man, and would let you know if the referees gave the Lobos a bad call. Would tell you on the air about it all the time. A true Lobo, man. That guy was a legend. So when I think of Mike Roberts, I always think of the broadcaster Mike Roberts. But Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, I got maybe one or two more questions for you, and then we'll let you go. Appreciate your time, but I want to talk about a little bit about your playing days. I'll let you kind of revisit some cool memories. But you played collegiately at Western Carolina. I don't know if it was a school record, but 179 three-pointers during your career. I think in 1 year, 2012, you had 80 three-pointers. And then you played professionally overseas in Kosovo for one season. What does being able to kind of resonate with today's student athletes now, having a playing career, being able to guide them? And obviously we know what the impact of your playing style. You were a high-volume shooter, and now New Mexico's a high-volume three-point shooting team. How much of your playing days kind of impacted how you coach your players now and kind of the influence you might have on a program?
Yeah, give a shout out to Mustafa Amzil. He just won the championship in Kosovo last week. They beat my former team, so shout out Amzil for the championship. Yeah, I mean, I think as a player, I did what I was good at. I suppose I wasn't a great athlete. I was a guy that could think the game and space the floor, so I did what I was good at to be able to be on the floor. And then I think I've always thought about the game in terms of trying to generate easy baskets and catch and shoot 3-point shots. And then being able to, study Coach Olen's UC San Diego teams when they were Division II level from afar, and then be able to connect with them a couple years later. That's just how I thought about the game. So to get in Coach Olen's environment where he was teaching some of the things that I naturally already felt about the game was, for me, a match made in heaven. I don't know if Coach would say the same, but that's how I felt.
All right, cool. One last question for you. This is kind of more in regards to maybe some of the scheduling. Not sure how much influence. I don't think that's your responsibility on the coaching staff, but today it was announced that you guys just inked a home game against NAU. And then you also have the home and home series, which I thought was really important to lock up that rivalry with Utah State. Can you maybe speak on other games that might be kind of in the works, or schools you guys might be targeting to get on this schedule? It's kind of an important topic here to get good teams to come into the pit from a revenue standpoint, but then from a fan base standpoint. Fans want exciting games to go to, and with the exiting of the Boise States, the San Diego States of the world, like, we don't know if we're ever going to get that type of atmosphere at the pit for like that big time rivalry. Not sure if there's anything you can share on that topic, or, I mean, what would your message be to Lobo Nation around that?
Yeah, I'm not directly responsible for scheduling. That's Mike Roberts mixed with our administration team, but he's working at that diligently every day. And the one thing that we've spoken about is, yeah, we want to play the very best competition that we can possibly play this year. So you can take it for what it's worth, Lobo fans, but Coach Roberts, our staff, our administration, working every single day to get high-level games in the pit, high-level games on the road that will bring in fans and excite fans. and excite our players. Shoot, our players like to play in front of environments that care about the game and care about our team. So we want to set that up for them.
Yeah. Ed, any final thoughts?
Yeah, just a couple. You know, Coach, it's kind of funny against St. Joseph's in the NIT. It may have been only 8,000 fans, but we were sitting right there on press row. And I've been at the pit millions of times. That 8,000 sounded like 15. You know,
was it only 8?
It was 8 or 10. It wasn't anything more than that. And
it felt like way more, because I know we crushed every other
Yeah.
team in the NIT in terms of overall attendance, and we were fortunate to get that third game in the pit. I know people on our administrative side pushed things around. I think it was the rodeo that weekend. Like,
yes.
did an unbelievable job getting us there. But yeah, it felt way more than 8,000.
And it sounded like it. You know, that place is, well, Coach, you already know, man, and you'll see even more. I think, you know, in a new version of the Mountain West Conference, Utah State's coming to play, and that's good. But I look at a regional rivalry, and UTEP's coming back, and they were here many years ago, and we had a great rivalry with them. But the team that I think that might be a good regional rival for us is Grand Canyon. They're just down the way. They did some good work in the portal. I think New Mexico did. I think that's going to be a series there that's going to be, people are going to get lathered up for, man. I could see that. They've got a great fan base over there in Grand Canyon, and the Lobos fan base has been legendary for years. They've ranked in the top 20 in attendance for, I can't remember when. So this is, Coach, before the mezzanine, you know, left in 2009 when they used to have seats up top. You know, I could tell you, I already told you, I could tell you days when there was 18,000 fans there and you couldn't hear yourself think. They played Georgetown one time here when Patrick Ewing was here, played for Georgetown. They were ranked number 1. And the next day in the paper, the Georgetown players said they couldn't even hear themselves in the huddle. That's how loud it was at that time. So Lobo fans love their Lobos for sure. Just one quick question. New guidance issued by the NCAA to schools earlier this month opens the door for a crackdown on the tidal wave of international pros hoping to head to college basketball. Any comment on that? Did you hear about that? The new NCAA. Do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, we've heard about it. Nothing official has been broadcasted to us yet as a staff, so we're going to continue to operate in the same manner. I will say I don't think it impacts anybody on our current roster. So I'll leave it at that.
Just one more quick comment. I'm going to have Coach Scott Waterman on the radio on 6:10 a.m. on Thursday at 4:15. So had a chat with him the other day, and I'm looking forward to having him on.
Ask him about WWE.
That's
his deal right there. Ask him about The Undertaker.
I was hoping you'd tell me something that I could take away, and I definitely will ask him that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to having him on. And, Coach, once again, man, thanks for coming on with us. I'll tell you what, as a Lobo diehard, when I listened to the games when I was young, my brother would say I would cry, but doubly hard if they lost to the Aggies. You know, hated the Aggies. Always did. You know, and then it's not the rivalry it once was, but that's how long I've been a fan. And you've done a great job. You and Coach Olen and the rest of your staff have done a great job here building a winning program, 26 wins in the first season, and we're sure looking forward to what's coming next. We really are. So thanks again for coming on with us.
Eric, Ed, I appreciate you having me, and go Lobos.
Go Lobos. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Ed and I will come back and talk some other news and notes around Lobo Nation, maybe some NBA playoffs, since I know Ed's so heavily invested. But Coach Tom Tankelewicz, we appreciate your time. Coach Tank, maybe we'll catch up with you later this summer and see what's going on.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Take care, man.
Right.
Take care.
Yes, sir. See
Take
you.
care. We'll be right back.
Swing big and save even bigger with our Big League Markdowns at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe. This is your shot at big league deals, like a new 2025 Ford F-150 XLT 4-wheel drive Power Boost Hybrid, now up to $9,900 off MSRP, or a new 2026 Ford F-250 Super Duty, now up to $6,100 off MSRP. We're offering up home run deals all day, every day, with these big league markdowns at Capitol Ford in Santa Fe.
All right, welcome back to the Pit Press Live. Eric Moulton joined by Ed Nunez. We just wrapped up an interview with UNM men's basketball assistant coach, Coach Tom Tankelewicz. Ed, this guy's sharp, man. Offensive guru. I think his resume kind of speaks for itself. His time at UC San Diego, his relationship with Coach Olen. You're talking like high efficiency basketball, assist to turnover ratio. You can kind of see that being spilt over into this UNM program with the evolution of a guy like Jake Hall, Uriah Tenet, guys that actually pick up on it fast, guys that can play. I think the program's kind of going through this evolution now. It's a different style of play, a lot of European players. What did you think of the interview?
You know what? And I listened to, like I said, the interview he did with Jeff a year ago, and sharp guy, like you said, is they break things down. You asked, you came up with some really good questions. Pace, space, cutting to the basket. You heard what he said. Screen. So they want players with high basketball IQs that can make those kind of decisions. I thought we saw a lot of that last year. When they were cooking. Albury, they brought him in from Utah State, and I thought when he was really rolling downhill and putting that rim pressure, sometimes he'd over penetrate. But I thought there was times the Lobos would he penetrate, kick it to the corner, one more pass, and maybe even one more. They paced and spaced very well. So I think that's what they're looking for. I think the bigs that they got will definitely help. So I'm looking forward to it. The other thing too, Eric, I think is in a revamped Mountain West Conference, there's no reason the Lobos shouldn't contend or win the championship, be in there every year. Same thing for football. So I'm looking forward to this next upcoming season. It is going to be a different conference. We have to come to grips with that. We will miss San Diego State. That was a great rivalry for the Lobos for many years. Boise State, Utah State still coming to play here. We will miss those rivals. We will. So I think it's important to create new ones. And I think Grand Canyon, them being down the street in Phoenix, is a good candidate for New Mexico fans to get lathered up and boo and hiss. And we don't even have the Aggies anymore. We play them once. So we'll play them here this year. But I'm looking forward to that. I think he's again, sharp mind. I really enjoyed our interview with him. I really did.
Yeah. To me, I think there's still kind of a few questions that I have about this offense. Obviously, like, it's exciting that the Lobos are acquiring so many European players. You think about skilled players that have been basically brought up through these training programs in Europe from a young age, bypassing playing high school basketball, but like they're very deliberate in their training, a different style of play. They really emphasize ball movement, outside shooting, like that positionless basketball that I was referring to in that interview. But that's kind of what this new roster is starting to shape up to be. But there's still a piece of it that I question a little bit with, like, the impact that a player like Dayton Albury had last year, that rim pressure, the ball handler, the guy with the lightning speed that can get in the lane. I know Dax Hall might have some of that capability, but I mean, can you put that on him to be that Dayton Albury? It's hard to replace a player like that, especially when you look at the Mountain West tournament, right? Like when they faced San Diego State in that semifinal game, it was tough to score, and UNM kind of turned to Albury to get into the lane. He played a hell of a game. You could just tell he played the hardest he could. They just struggled to score. And so I think they need to be really deliberate in looking for guys that can create their own shot, create off the dribble. Obviously, these guys are really high IQ basketball players, but to me, they're still kind of like that missing ingredient that might still be out there, or maybe that kind of falls in like a Hudson Mays type style of player. I don't know what your thoughts might be around that, but I almost overvalue or put a higher value on guard play than I do on like a stretch 3, stretch 4 type big player, or someone that can kind of be interchangeable. What do you think?
In this offense here, I think you're right about that, because they lucked out getting Albury. He was he had played at Utah State when he came here. I was like, hey, that's the athlete, the kind of athlete they need in their system. You're right. Uriah Tenet is a little bit small. He likes to get he does get those 2 feet in the paint. He'll pull up more for a jumper rather than attack the rim. So I think Hudson Mays is one guy that can get his own shot. You look at his athleticism. There's an upside there that I think we're going to be the beneficiary of seeing here. So I'm excited. But I don't think your questions are without some legitimacy. The same thing with the big men. We don't know. He signed a kid from Italy, Ghani. I can't remember his full name, but I think we have to see that too, because Coach Olen, my son asked him at the press conference about rim protection, and Coach Olen said, "Hey, we feel like there's different ways to win basketball games." And I think he did sign some size. One guy that he signed had 32 blocks. That'll help. But I think you and I both know too that you had Thomas Bullion, who was, built, quick jumper, is going to get some rebounds. JT Rock improved, So I think you have to have those guys inside. Grand Canyon has that Effrey, 7-footer Effrey, whatever, I can't remember his last name. And then they signed
Demerol.
Effrey Demerol.
F.A. Demerol.
And then they signed the kid from Tulsa, who's 27 years old, man, Tyler Behrens. That's a big kid, big guy. Yeah. Been in the Navy. So, I mean, I think we'll have to see how these New Mexico big men fare against. We both know you have to have that guy to finish the defensive possession. But Rias Petratus, I like that guy. He's a hustler, right? We didn't even mention him. I forgot about him. I think that's a key signing too. We mentioned Dax Hall and some others, Hudson Mays, but Rias Petratus, that's a veteran right there. That's a hustler. That's a physical hustle guy that's going to go after those rebounds. So there's one guy that's going to definitely be, I think, a starter. So, but yeah, I think I share some of your concerns about the guard position. They flopped Albury, and Tannett could learn under a senior, right? He came in and did a good job. But yeah, I think you have some points there. Let's see what Dax Hall can do.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go to some other news and notes around Lobo Nation. So you probably saw the recent news earlier this week. Over the weekend, Donovan Dent is back in town hosting his own camp. I think they expected 50 campers to turn out, and I think they saw over 100 or 150. But he officially announced that he's retiring from the game of basketball, wants to dedicate his time to training youth basketball players, kind of spend that time. I know he's going to take part in the TBT with Team Enchantment and Coach Mace. I don't know. What were your kind of knee-jerk reactions when you heard that Dent was going to be hanging up his sneakers?
I'll be honest with you. I've been a fan a long time, and there wasn't anybody that I know going back in Lobo history, that had a chance to play. Kelvin Scarborough played overseas. Phil Smith played overseas. I don't know if Greg Brown, the late Greg Brown, he might have played some. He tried out for the Orlando Magic, and I remember him telling me how close he was to almost making it. So everyone that I know of, Hunter, I'm not sure if Hunter played anywhere or wanted to. He might have had a tryout somewhere, Hunter Green. Everybody that I know wanted to try, to that next level, that had that ability. And he's the first one I've ever heard say that he didn't. And he could make some money overseas for sure, make a lot of money. He could. I read the paper. I heard his interview, and maybe he just he doesn't want to pursue that. His fiance, I believe, is going to be a doctor, and maybe him being in the G League and being away from her, maybe he doesn't want to do that. He'll always be a Lobo. There's fans that took some shots at him saying, "Oh, he should go back to UCLA." Look, I'll ask everybody again: if someone offered you $3 million a year to play basketball, and what would you do? I think it's pretty easy. I mean, I was sad that he left. He had a good year there. He averaged 13 and 7 assists, second leading scorer. But anyone's going to do what he did. So I'll be honest, Eric, I was a little surprised. I really was. I read it and I heard his interview. My wife said it though. He said, look, he's happy. He's at peace, man. There's no, I missed out on something. That's his decision now. He may change his mind, but that's what he said for right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, he accomplished a lot, so much. I mean, even not just at New Mexico, but going back to his hometown and playing for UCLA, cashing out on a big payday, and maybe a little bit, and this is not to knock on his game at all, but maybe the writing was on the wall for him too. He was 6'1", 6'2". Not a lot of NBA scouts are going to be, drooling at someone with that athletic ability at 6'1", 6'2". It's hard to translate to the NBA. I mean, you out of all people would understand that since you watch a lot of NBA, but a lot of the guys that he'd have to match up with are 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". There's just a lot of size in the NBA, and it's if you don't have that mid-range jump shot, he had the ability to get to the rim though. I'll give him that. He had freak athletic ability, strong finisher. I think his jump shot, his 3-point shooting did develop kind of later on his last year at UNM, but it'd be hard to see how that translates into the NBA style of play. He mastered the pick and roll game. There's only so much you can get to in terms of like the NBA style of play. But maybe this was, I mean, obviously this was a decision based on more family life. He talked about meeting with his family before prior to making this decision and then coming back to Albuquerque. He's got I don't know. Are they engaged? Did it say they were
I don't know.
fiance?
I thought they were.
Or maybe it was
maybe I'm wrong saying that
girlfriend?
maybe it's his girlfriend. Maybe I'm wrong about the fiance part, but they are, really close. I know that because he moved back here and he went there for 1 year. He's not a Bruin. I understand people would be upset about him leaving. He's a Lobo, man. To me, he'll always be a Lobo, and he's coming back here to share his talents in training kids. He wants to be here. So, I wish him well. I think I was just stunned. Like, why wouldn't you try, right? Everybody that I know of wanted to try, but you made a good point there. He's got the athleticism, but he doesn't really shoot well enough to be, in the NBA. He doesn't, and it's 6'2". Those guards are 6'5", 6'6". Those are freak athletes in the NBA. Everyone at that size. There's some guys his size too. He could probably again play somewhere. Jalen House is in the G League. There's no doubt he could be somewhere playing and making good money, very good money. But that's what he said for right now. And hey, I'm happy for him. He seems at ease with it.
Yeah, it's tough, man. There's a trade-off with chasing that dream too, and spending time overseas, spending time in the G League. The money's not great, even though you're trying to make that dream of making the NBA. And when your fiance or your girlfriend is going for med school, and you prioritize that, I can't argue with that decision. I'm happily married, 2 kids, and that's my life. So if that's what he wants for his life, good for him. I wish him nothing but the best. But I think we want to try to effort him to get him on the pit press and just kind of visit some old playing days. More to come on that. But one more topic for you, Ed, before we hang it up. We're coming up on 50 minutes now. But you asked Coach Tank just about like the European, the news, the international recruits. It's kind of a sensitive subject now, but it seems as though the NCAA is kind of cracking down on some of that, especially European players that have professional ties. They made a ton of money overseas and are trying to come over to the States, play NCAA basketball, make even more money. But it looks like the NCAA is trying to regulate that a little bit more. It's hard to say how much control they're going to have from like a legal standpoint, but what's your take on that? Do you have an opinion on how to maybe regulate that, or are you opposed to that kind of growing?
We looked at Bouillon this year, right? And he's a 23-year-old freshman that played professional ball, and so I was kind of wondering about that. Hey, does he have another year of eligibility? It turned out he does. He transferred to Maryland. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting to me what the NCAA chooses to regulate and what they don't. You never know. So I think there's more to come on that. And I think Coach Tank didn't want to really say too much. I understand why. They got Thomas Bouillon, and a player that fits in that category. So he probably didn't want to say too much. But I'm kind of a little surprised at that. But again, with what the NCAA does, I don't think anything surprises me, man. They slept on this NIL stuff and image and likeness until they got sued by Ed O'Bannon from UCLA, and it opened the floodgates. Opened up. They had made billions of dollars off athletes' image and likeness for years, and they didn't want to pay up, man. And when they got sued, they had to. And now we see NIL. So, you never know what they're going to regulate, man. You never know.
Yeah, it's tough. I think my one drawback on it is when you start allowing that to happen more and more, the high school recruits start to drop lower and lower, right? Like there's lower emphasis focused on high school recruiting. obviously you're going to have the elite of the elite high school class be able to go to the blue bloods, but everything outside of that, it's just minimized because you're basically rebuilding a roster year in and year out, and you're going after the best talent, more mature, developed players overseas. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all going to cost money, but when you have to replace holes and you're looking at more developed players versus like a true 18-year-old freshman who maybe hasn't like fully matured yet, it's a different ball game. So that would be my drawback. It kind of takes away from what the true NCAA and the college experience should look like. I think it's all changed, and there's no going back at this point.
Yeah, there isn't. You're right about that.
So, Ed, that's all I got for tonight, man. I enjoyed the interview with Coach Tom. Not sure if you have any final thoughts, but we're ready to sign out.
No, you know what, Eric? Just to, again, let Lobo fans, let them know, our listeners and all the people that have subscribed to the channel. Thank you for all your support, man. We're nothing without them. And I will be hosting Unfiltered Thursday and Friday. So feel free to call in and give us your take on Lobos, NBA, baseball. World Cup's coming up, man. I can't believe how fast that's coming up. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'll be hosting. Kenny's out of town. Won't be back for a couple weeks, so I'll be hosting next Tuesday and Thursday as well. And Kenny's been real good about, promoting the Pit Press on Unfiltered. And I can't tell you and everybody else how much I appreciate that. So please tune into Unfiltered as well.
Yeah, we need to get him back on along with Clayton Shields. We'll effort more former Lobos and even some former women basketball players too.
We still got to talk about that, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for Eric Moulton and Ed Nunez, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Pit Press Live. Everyone have a good evening, and until next time.